Greetings, brothers and sisters. How many of us know the words to the songs Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Star-Spangled Banner, or Jingle Bells? The purpose of this video is to impress upon you how bombardment, as I am calling it, can be very influential to our thoughts, expressions, and actions, whether we are conscious of it or not. The reason I mention these songs is because many of us know the lyrics to these songs, not because we consciously made an effort to learn them, but because we've been so bombarded with them that we learn them subconsciously, or indirectly, as some might say. A constant repetition of these songs registered in our subconscious minds enough times that hearing the songs at a particular time, which was just like a key unlocking a door, allowed us to be able to sing the songs word for word. This opening is a segue, and I trust that what I mean by bombardment is clear. Marketing and advertising firms rely heavily on bombardment. They all have a certain level of attrition in mind when they bombard their targeted audiences. In other words, they may put out commercials, billboards, or flyers that they know will reach, let's say, 1 million people. They figure for about 99% attrition, which means the firm estimates that 99% of their audience won't purchase their advertised product. But 1% of 1 million is 100,000. So if they can get just 1% of their audience to purchase the product the marketing firm is bombarding them with, they will have a successful marketing campaign. I trust the point is clear. These firms bombard their audiences with imagery, sound, and language. When I say sound, I mean music and jingles primarily. What are some of the most popular and successful marketing slogans and jingles ever created in this country? How about "The best part of waking up is," of course, Folgers in your cup. How about "I'm loving it"? Too easy, McDonald's. Keeps going and going and going. No doubt that's Energizer. Blank does a body good. Milk, of course. And last but certainly not least, just do it. None other than Nike. Let's take this a bit further to see how significant the use of words, imagery, and even sex appeal and celebrity power can have on the success of marketing schemes. Cigarette advertisements employ models and actors and actresses to help sell them. From the 1950s on, cigarette advertisement used heartthrob and ultimate cool guy James Dean to help market them. Now, some may find this difficult to accept, but in the 50s, cigarettes were actually advertised as a health benefit, and statements from physicians were used to market cigarettes. I might add that although cigarettes certainly were not healthy even in the 50s, I understand that there are considerably more and higher levels of toxins in cigarettes now than there were then. I understand that the term marijuana is a Mexican slang term that goes back over 80 years. Contrary to what has been elucidated thus far, marijuana was the victim of negative ad campaigning. The negative ad campaigns against marijuana even went as far as to suggest it was demonic. Why, you may ask? Well, to put it briefly, cannabis or hemp was a threat to the use of paper produced from wood for the newspaper industry that was starting to burgeon in the 20s and 30s. So they had to do something to discourage the populace, corporate America, and state and federal entities from wanting to use hemp instead of paper in the newspaper industry. Therefore, the American public was bombarded with negative information about marijuana. This final example of bombardment of product advertising, I submit, is perhaps the most successful marketing scheme in American history. In order to sell this product, it had to be made synonymous with something else that was supposed to last forever. What I am talking about is diamonds and marriage. Diamonds are said to be forever. Marriage is supposed to last forever. Therefore, the only way to properly consecrate marriage was to slip a diamond ring on both spouses' fingers. People pay up to 7 figures for a diamond ring. People have gotten second mortgages on their homes to pay for diamond rings. In the 20s, De Beers started bombarding the American public with these campaigns. Some bombardments are uncomfortable and even hazardous to our health. Let's take a look at some of these bombardments so that we can get a good sense of how far people will go based on what they're bombarded with. Now, one may say that some of these are trends. Indeed, some of them are. Trends are the result of bombardment. Bombardment often results from a snowball effect. Wearing skull caps in the summertime is popular right now. Wearing leggings is popular right now. Wearing large rimmed glasses is popular right now. Women wearing flower patterned pants is popular once again. Wearing high heel shoes is a fashion statement as a result of bombardment that can cause serious back and leg problems. Tattoos and piercings have also led to health problems. There are numerous hairstyles like the mohawk, bedhead, spiked hair with mousse, Brazilian weaves, cornrows, the Cleopatra look, and dreadlocks. As disconcerting and dangerous as it is, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the alterations women make to their lips, breasts, and rear ends. There's also an array of colloquial or slang terms, if you will, that we've been bombarded with that you hear frequently today, such as, I'm feeling some kind of way, turn up, drop it like it's hot, you must not know about me, I'm a boss, and the title to a country music song that is popular right now, which is, This Is How We Roll. Now, I must warn you that the following information contains some words and expressions that are extremely vulgar. I trust it is clear, though, that my addressing these words and expressions is done for educational purposes. With this in mind, the FCC has declared that the words DICK and ASS are okay to be used on public television with some discretion. Let's look at some very common expressions that are saturated with profanity, violence, and vulgarity. And then let's consider whether they are consciously or subconsciously, and then let's consider whether they consciously or subconsciously affect certain choices we make. Some of us exclaim or hear frequently, kiss my ass, F you, punk, you can suck my D, you're such an a-hole, fool, I'll bust your ass. Taxes are so high, it feels like I've been effed in the ass. Oh man, I locked my keys in the car. F me. You are full of shh. Eat shh and die, punk. Oh shh. You done effed up now. Think about this, brothers and sisters. All of these vulgar and profane expressions allude to unnatural penetration or reference the organ used to perform the unnatural penetration or one's rear, which is where the unnatural penetration takes place. Now, we must stress the potential subconscious effects of such heinous expressions. Again, please forgive me for the graphic language, but I trust you realize why it is necessary. Let's look at some more terms that, when used, automatically elicit sexual thoughts and responses from some people. I know many people myself that if you merely mention the following terms, even if you're not using them sexually, they lose all self-control and your conversation is interrupted by reprobate responses. How old is your grandmother? Oh, I think she's 69. Reprobate response. I can't wait to get me a big juicy footlong. Reprobate response. My pussycat licks itself all over. Reprobate response. My uncle's name is Richard, but we all call him Dick. Reprobate response. How many tennis balls do you have, John? I have 2 balls. Reprobate response. Now, let's discuss the possible effects of subconscious sexual bombardment as it relates to same-sex activity. When we deal with sex, brothers and sisters, I surmise for the majority of people, we're dealing with the most powerful and influential urges the human form produces. Please keep this in mind as we move forward. Brothers and sisters, let us not be so naive or in such denial that we try to convince ourselves and others that somehow the subconscious effects of bombardment of same-sex advertising and marketing is any different than the subconscious effects of the bombardments listed earlier. Just like you may be influenced to buy a diamond ring, smoke a cigarette, or wear high-heel shoes because you are bombarded by it, you may, and I stress may, be influenced to engage in same-sex activity for the same reason. Since this part of the commentary deals with the subconscious effects of bombardment, let me offer some real-life matters for you to consider. Before I do though, let me make it crystal clear that our main purpose is to give you some matters to consider in regard to why some people, not all, may engage in same-sex activity. We do not judge or condemn anyone. We assert that the bombardment of imagery, sound, and language may be a key contributor to same-sex activity. Also, proximity may play a factor as well. We will elucidate what we mean by proximity. I submit to you that pornography may be a contributor to one eventually engaging in same-sex activity. Let's say you're a man and you're watching porn. The sexy woman is lying on the bed waiting for her man to come out of the bathroom. Now, if the man that comes out of the bathroom is built like, let's say, Fat Albert and is not well endowed, I surmise most men would be severely disappointed. This is not to say that there aren't any overweight porn actors, but let's be real with one another. Most men want to see a muscular, well-endowed man, or at least a man with an average build. Some men are going to say, I am straight. I am not turned on by the man. It is the hot woman who turns me on. With all due respect, you are either naive or in total denial. I assert once again that it is not merely the woman who arouses you. It is the interaction between a sexy woman and a sexy, well-endowed man that arouses you. In terms of proximity, it is common for several guys to occupy small rooms like a college dorm room and watch pornography. Now, think about this. 4 of your buddies and you are sitting in a small college dorm room watching porn. You're getting excited as well as your 4 buddies. Some men are going to say, I've been watching porn with my buddies for 20 years and I ain't never been tempted to do anything with a man. Though such may be the case for many men, it is a moot point. Case in point, millions have been exposed to Captain Morgan spiced rum and have never tried it and never will. Yet thousands will try Captain Morgan. I trust my point is clear. Let's look at gang banging as an even greater illustration of proximity. You and two of your buddies decided you want to gang bang or run a train, as it is also called, on a particular female. This means that the three of you are sexually aroused and standing or lying in bed right next to one another. Again, please forgive me for the graphic language. You may pronounce, "We may gang bang the female," while all lying in the bed together, but we don't actually touch each other and don't get aroused by one another. Only the female arouses us. Fine, if you say so. For the rest of my viewers, draw your own conclusions. I might also add that lithium is put in drinking water. Lithium is a known endocrine disruptor, which simply means it negatively affects the male and female hormones. Again, I'll let you draw your own conclusions. Let's look at the bombardment of same-sex activity in billboards, commercials, TV shows, and movies. Now, many of the same-sex images, sounds, and language are covert. Therefore, it is not always easily recognizable that those images, sounds, and language are meant to promote same-sex activity. If we go back to my example of attrition for a moment, let's say John points out 500 commercials, movies, and TV shows to an expert panel that he feels covertly promote same-sex activity. Let's say the panel reviews each advertisement and responds to him with, 90% of those programs don't promote same-sex activity. You're just seeing what you want to see. Fair enough. Even if John is wrong 9 out of 10 times according to the panel, that still means that the panel agrees that 50 of the shows may have some covert same-sex messages in them. Now, just multiply this by 1,000 commercials, billboards, movies, etc., and spread it across a population of more than 300 million. I trust my point is clear. When we add to this discussion that some politicians pretty much co-sign same-sex activity, we may want to consider this as another form of bombardment. So, brothers and sisters, did John Doe decide to try same-sex activity for the first time at age 40 as a decision he made free of any outside influences, or because he was born with same-sex desire and somehow just didn't realize it until he was age 40? Or was his decision to engage in same-sex activity influenced by subconscious bombardment of same-sex imagery, sound, and language? Incidentally, I do accept that peer pressure, which is another form of bombardment, may be a factor in same-sex activity as well. Brothers and sisters, we have to be extremely careful how much we lust for carnal pleasure. Lust can turn into obsession. Obsession throws us off balance. When we are off balance, there is no satisfying our carnal nature. All of a sudden, one woman won't do. Gotta have 2 or 3 now. Now women, period, won't do. You need some gadgetry in the bedroom. Now the gadgetry doesn't satisfy you. How about we invite the neighbors over? Now this time, Sarah, you stay home. Just tell your husband Bob to come over. Now this time, honey, you go over to Sarah's house and tell Bob to come over here with just me. You know what? Bob doesn't satisfy me anymore. Let's go to the pet shop. I won't go any further. I trust you get the point. It is also critical to realize that the subconscious mind is the human tape recorder, and unless we erase and replace what's in it, it will play back, even if we are unconscious of what's recorded on it. It is also critical to realize that the subconscious mind is the human tape recorder, and unless we erase and replace what's in it, it will play back, even if we are unconscious of what's recorded on it. So, brothers and sisters, What is the common denominator in nearly all that has been addressed here? Well, the common denominator is very wealthy, very powerful, and very influential forces, be they politicians, demagogues, ministers, music executives, music performers, actors and actresses, movie moguls, TV moguls, advertising and marketing firms, etc. Again, you're capable of drawing your own conclusions. You may want to ask yourselves why we rarely, if ever, hear the media present testimonies of people who no longer engage in same-sex activity. Brothers and sisters, I am impressed that there are numerous men and women who will tell you they stopped engaging in same-sex activity because, in their own words, it was wrong. Many more have the same testimony, but are intimidated by forces that don't want this made known. Take a quick journey with me, if you would be so obliging. If I could have matters my way, I would have all electronic communication and mass advertising and marketing completely cut off for 20 years. Humankind would return to the horse and buggy era for the most part. There would be no pressure to vote for a particular party, no tugging your collar to support a particular sports franchise, no billboards or magazine articles compelling you to lust for particular breast or butt sizes, hair texture or length, or skin complexion. No signs or commercials telling you what to drink or eat, what type of car to drive, what brand of clothes to wear, what type of social circles to form. I know this is unrealistic, but I trust you see where I'm going. The human race will be allowed to sort of air out for 20 years, just like you do your blankets and sheets. This means that anyone born this year will be 21 before we restore technology and mass advertising. How would people act? What would their interests be? How many of them would consider same-sex activity without the overt or covert bombardment of campaigns, commercials, TV shows, movies, etc.? So, brothers and sisters, I can sing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer word for word, not because I just loved the song as a child and was desperate to memorize it. I learned Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer because I was bombarded with it. Bombarded with it. Although you nearly choked to death after your first puff, because you've been bombarded with ads, peer pressure, and the like, you proceeded to take another dangerous puff. Some will endure excruciating pain, great discomfort, risk job opportunities, and even risk health problems to scrape or pierce something artsy into their skin. Not because they just love the thought of it, despite their adamant declarations, but because they've been bombarded with imagery of it as a symbol of being cool, hardcore, artistic, sophisticated, or what have you. Might some who engage in same-sex activity be engaging in same-sex activity for the same reasons listed above? I trust this commentary gives you something worthwhile to consider in regard to the subject matter. How is sexual bombardment affecting our thoughts, expressions, and actions, brothers and sisters? How is sexual bombardment affecting our thoughts, expressions, and actions, brothers and sisters? With this in mind, I trust the overall point of this commentary has been received. I am a student of life, brothers and sisters, and I love all of the Creator's creation, be the individual in cooperation with natural sexual activity or otherwise. If comments are allowed, I implore you to be clear, concise, and respectful. No insults, personal attacks, or vulgarity will be tolerated. Thank you for your time and consideration. Love and harmony, Brother Osiris.